What's up, Ironman fans? This is the video you've been waiting for so long, because in this video we will design a new Ironman hydrogen reactor, because none of the previous models provide the required power. Likes and comments below, links to my PDF instructions and PDF guides also below the video. Let's go! Remember that the hydrogen reactor in my suit is an electrolyzer that, under the influence of electric current, decomposes water into hydrogen and oxygen, that is, rocket fuel and oxidizer in one bottle. Can't even imagine what could go wrong. The resulting gas can be used as a fuel for all sorts of hydrogen gadgets, hydrogen torches or small repulsors. However, for some reason, few people use electrolyzer as a high-pressure compressor, which doesn't require additional energy to pump. Well, I understand why a few people want to be near a hydrogen and oxygen mixture under pressure, but look, purely hypothetical. According to basic school chemistry calculation, 1 liter of water gives us 1,800 liters of hydrogen and oxygen mixture. That in closed system, water electrolysis will give us significant increase in pressure. This means that in addition to a combustible gas, we also receive a lightweight and compact high-pressure electrolytic pump, without electric motors, pistons, valves or other large and heavy components of a conventional compressor. In addition, an electrolyzer under increased pressure operates with higher efficiency than electrolyzer under normal pressure due to the reduced gas filling of the reactor core. It also turned out that powering with pulsed current rather than direct current helps reduce gas filling. We will discuss it later in detail when we launch the whole suit. If we consider that the electrolyzer at the heart of the exosuit energy system, then it is clear that in order to more effectively use all the advantages, we need a high-pressure electrolyzer with pulsed power supply. Well, that's it. Let's design it, right? In short, you can imagine what it's like to design a complex experimental setup that no one has ever built before, that is actually worked as intended, calculating all performance parameters, finding optimal materials, of which there are now plenty of new ones, and spending dozens of hours on measurements and testing. What I mean is that it's not even super fun for me, and it's also very expensive, and it's unlikely to pay off in any way. And most importantly, it's incredibly long. I'm a young man, I want to ride a motorcycle and still haven't beaten the Diablo 2 beyond the Amazon class. Anyway, I just wanted to say that before I dive into another year of fundamental development of a new suit energy system, I thought maybe I should just use the old electrolyzer and that's it. So I attached my kilowatt electrolyzer to the back and powered it with Tesla batteries, just to see how much I could squeeze out of this extensive development path. Actually, I realized that it wasn't particularly promising even while I was still putting on the suit, and here is why.
20 килограммов экипировки, слишком много. Малая подвижность, почти не могу двигаться. Стул скрипит, не я. Надо сбрасывать вес. Ну, железка. А уж иначе ничего не получается. Пока все.
An electrolyzer, like any other power plant, has two main parameters: performance and energy efficiency. Performance means the volume of hydrogen and oxygen mixture produced per minute. But energy efficiency is about what price, what energy consumption is required to achieve such productivity. It turned out that if we simply take the easy way out and use the approach of increasing productivity, that is, increasing the active area of the electrolyzer, which means increasing the power density, which means increasing the size of the installation and the weight of the batteries, then due to the fact that the Ironman suit is already transforming into a space marine suit, impulse of the repulsor relative to the total weight decreases. So we're left with only one option: increasing the electrolyzer's energy efficiency. No more motorcycle and no more Amazon for a year. To begin with, I assembled several lab electrolyzers to make it easier to test theoretical calculations in practice, test individual components and new parts, and make efficiency measurements. Of course, in this video we won't cover all the technical aspects of calculating and manufacturing electrolyzers, because that's 100 pages and that's not so interesting for everyone. But for those who truly interested, it's much easier to understand it in text form, so the book is available for purchase. Enjoy! But from all this long research, I want to highlight 5 important upgrades in the new model that have a real impact on the energy efficiency of the electrolyzer and the prospects of its future use beyond just the exosuit. In my first electrolyzers, I used rather rude calculation of the active area of the plates, relying only on the power supply. And many electrolysis units still do this way. However, due to the mismatches between the current and the electrode area, this approach can lead to the rapid overheating of the entire system. But I didn't care about this before, because the overall design worked quite well and heat losses were okay for me. But after my initial experiments, I spent a lot of time with electroplating, which is in fact the same electrolysis, but not for gas production, but for applying metal coatings. In electroplating, a much more precise method is used to calculate the operating current, taking into account the current density per square decimeter of the part surface. You see, even decimeters come in handy. And now, when calculating any electrolytic system, I always use this method, which allows to reduce heat losses, and the electrolyzer can operate for a long time without overheating. But and this is the second upgrade. Even with optimal current, any electrolyzer will eventually overheat, because that's how it works. We have an electrical device in which current passes through an electrolyte, and in any case the electrolyte gradually heats up. In small electrolyzers, the current is lower and they usually turn on for a short time, and this problem doesn't arise at all. In large, powerful electrolyzers, such as those for hydrogen cutting, welding, or hydrogen cleaning of internal combustion engines, which also somebody requires design and manufacture, the cell cooling occurs through the circulation of large volume of electrolyte. This is achieved by installing a large circulation tank, which itself functions as the heat exchanger. Also, fresh cold electrolyte can also be added anytime. We won't be putting a big stainless steel tank in the Iron Man suit, because I'm not Space Marine, I'm Iron Man. Anyway, there won't be enough space for such tanks, therefore I will most likely install aluminum radiators directly on the reactor's outer wall and also run a forced liquid cooling system through them. And importantly, this cooling will work regardless of whether the reactor is running or it's still cooling down. One of the most important and long-awaited upgrades is the ability to power the electrolyzer with pulsed current. 14 years of research, my own measurements, separating dubious information from facts, disappointments and all that stuff. At least now there are no otherworldly nonsense about over-unity gas yield or some magic about resonant frequency. Everything is much simpler and more clear. In fact, the pulse power supply operates as PWM controller, just avoiding overvoltage on the cells and very effectively preventing bubbles from sticking to electrodes, which causes overheating and reduces efficiency. The next quality upgrade is related to tools, new technologies and new materials. When I was making my first models, the only power tools I had were an angle grinder and a drill. This obviously affected the quality of the parts, making it impossible to achieve the required precision and tightness. Now it turns out I can make almost all the necessary parts myself right from my garage. The entire next video will be about manufacturing, so there I will tell you in detail and show you many interesting technical points. And we are smoothly approaching what is probably the main conceptual aspect of the entire suit work. This is perhaps one of the most important and technically complex aspects of the entire energy system. Have you ever wondered how very small devices like a tiny capacitor or inductor can store enormous amount of energy and exhibit powerful effects when released. As I understand it, the point is that the device should be able to accumulate energy for a certain period of time without losses, and then, what is not less important, to be able to suddenly release this energy. And due to this operating mode, a small-looking device can produce much more power at the moment of the impulse than in the normal mode of constant energy output. I understand that this may not sound very clear now, because this is just a theory, which I will try to demonstrate visually when I complete the entire system. In the next episode, we will try to make everything we come up so brilliantly. The release date for the next video depends directly on your support. Thank you so much to everyone who supports me right now on YouTube and Patreon membership. This video is possible only with your support. Share your technical ideas in the comments, maybe I can make it happen. All books and PDF instructions are available with the links in the description and in the pinned comment. Good luck with your own projects, and see you soon!